I'm realistic about my opportunity to become president. I think that it's a long shot, but I'm running for the issues I mentioned, to talk about homelessness, fatherlessness rather, and the lie that America's systemically racist, that's getting people killed. And I don't think our side, by the way, effectively deals with that well enough. It's not just driving nonsense like reparations. I mentioned that, which I consider to be the extraction of money from people who never slave owners to be given to people who never slaves. It's driving stuff like race-based preferences and DEI. It's getting people killed. It's called the Ferguson effect or the George Floyd effect, and that's a phenomenon of cops pulling back all over America for fear of being accused of systemic racism. As a result, in city after city after city, there are lots of people who are dead who otherwise wouldn't be dead if the police were doing their normal proactive policing. And I don't think that our side, meaning Republican side, is calling enough attention to the damage done by this lie. Look at the George Floyd riots or the Black Lives Matter riots that took place in protests in May of 2020 that lasted 4 months. The most deadly protest in the history of America. 35 people killed, 2,000 police officers injured, about $2 billion in property damage, insured property damage, maybe another $1 billion or $2 billion in uninsured property damage, all because of an assumption, a narrative that what happened to George Floyd had to do with his race. Now, the thing was televised, remember? And the lead prosecutor was a black man, and he never once said that what happened to George Floyd had anything to do with his race. In fact, in his opening statement, he took pains to say the police in general were not on trial. The Minneapolis PD in general was not on trial. In fact, he praised them. He said this individual cop, Derek Chauvin, is on trial for what he did or didn't do to George Floyd. Yet all these people in the streets on the assumption that what happened to George Floyd had to do with his race. Now, I think if you were to ask most of the people, there were 200 cities that had protests, millions of people in the streets. I think if you were to ask most of these people to describe their political ideology, most of them would probably say that I'm either very liberal or liberal. There's a website called policemag.com. This is important. People who were self-described as very liberal were asked, how many unarmed black men did the police kill in 2019? One half of the self-described very liberal people, 50% of them, thought the police killed 1,000 unarmed black men in 2019. 8% thought they killed 10,000.
What?
Of those who were self-described as liberal, 39% thought they killed 1,000. 5% thought they killed 10,000. According to the Washington Post database, it was 12. That's the gap between what people think is going on versus what is going on. That's what happens to your mentality.
To be fair, not 12,000 or 1,200, 12.
12. Washington Post database. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the police kill more unarmed white people every year than they kill unarmed blacks. And there are video of the police mishandling, manhandling, mistreating unarmed white people. Nobody cares. I urged people to Google Kelly Thomas, Fullerton, California, a few years ago. Literally, there's 3 or 4 cops beating up this homeless guy. 2 of them were tried, found not guilty. One had charges dismissed against him. Almost 9-10 minutes of video, almost as long as George Floyd. There's another one called Tony Timpa, T-I-M-P like Paul A, Dallas, Texas. Homeless guy, mentally ill. Cops beat him up. I can't breathe. He said all that. Maybe 13 minutes of video. Dallas, Texas, white guy. Nobody cares. And my point is giving you the false impression that the police are killing unarmed black people when in fact it is rare for the police to kill anybody, let alone an unarmed black person. And by the way, unarmed does not mean not dangerous. Michael Brown was unarmed, but his DNA was found on the officer's gun. He had done a strong arm robbery just minutes earlier. So just because you're unarmed doesn't mean you're not perceived as dangerous. But it's rare for the police to kill anybody, let alone an unarmed black person. Mm-hmm. But the people in the streets, as I said, from these numbers, have no blooming idea how infrequent this is.
The closest comparison I can make to it is the following, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. So why does one story get more momentum than the other one? Why does the one story blacks experiencing that versus white kids more
advances the narrative? I'll give you a recent example here in Florida. That Jacksonville racists killed those 3 black guys here in Florida. And Joe Biden made a comment, and not only did he make a comment, he said, silence in the face of hate like this is complicit. You're being complicit. About 3 months ago, Tulsa, Oklahoma, black guy gets a gun. If you are hearing this for the first time, this is my point. Black guy gets a gun, walks up to a white guy, pulls out the gun, shoots him in the back of the head and kills him. Goes to another area of Tulsa, Oklahoma, sees another white guy, pulls out the gun, shoots him in the back of the head and kills him. admits he did it because they were white. Biden didn't say a damn thing. He didn't say a damn thing about that because it doesn't advance the agenda. And by the way, most homicide, it's same race homicide. Most whites who are killed by other whites. Most blacks who are killed by other blacks. However, every year there are a handful of black-white homicides. Out of the, say, 20,000 homicides, about 750 of them are black, white, black. 500 white people are killed by blacks, even though blacks are just 13% of the population. 250 blacks are killed by whites, even though whites are 60% of the population. So blacks are killing twice as many whites as the other way around. Most people have no idea about that stat. I'll give you another one. Forget about homicides. This is violent crime between blacks and whites other than homicide. Attempted murder, rape, assault with a weapon. Roughly 500,000 such instances every single year. 85 to 90% is a black per white victim, only 10% to 15% the other way around. Most people aren't aware of that. Now, if some white guy, white Republican said, we have an epidemic of black supremacy in America, as Biden said about white supremacy at Howard. If a white guy said that, we would probably call him a race-hustling demagogue, and he'd be denounced. But Biden can go to Howard University and tell these graduating students just a few months ago, the number one problem facing the homeland is white supremacy, and nobody says a damn thing. He is being every bit a race-hustling demagogue as Al Sharpton, but nobody said a word.
Why?
I think it's Republicans, nothing scares Republican more than a left-wing person calling him or her a racist. They run from that, which is one of the reasons I believe the Democratic Party, or the Republican Party, never really cared that much about me being on the debate stage. I say this kind of stuff makes them feel uncomfortable. Republicans are trying to reach out to black voters, and they fear if they talk about fatherlessness that black women will perceive them as being demeaned, that somehow you're undermining the hard work that black females by themselves are doing raising these kids. You're not doing anything of the kind, but I think Republicans are afraid the reaction will be the same way. If Republicans start talking about the kind of stuff racially that I'm talking about, the fact that black people kill more white people than the other way around, I think they feel that the media and the left will jump all over them. It's no fun being called an Uncle Tom. It's no fun being called the blackface of white supremacy. And for a white person to be called a racist, that's no fun either. So they'd rather not talk about it.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.